Hey guys, Kurt here. This is a COVID-19 inspired video. I can't train my jiu-jitsu. Shout out to Grey Wolf Jiu-Jitsu. If you are in the Eugene area and you want to train jiu-jitsu, Grey Wolf Jiu-Jitsu. That is after COVID-19 and all that crap clears up. Like you, the rest of you, I can't train right now. But this video is about PTSD, and I don't see enough conversation about it. I am not an expert, but in 2019, late last year, I was diagnosed with PTSD. Everything is good in my world right now. It's because I had a lot of cool people helping me out, and I'm going to get into that. But yeah, if you've been in law enforcement for 10 plus years, I guarantee you something's going on in your world, and you don't have to be a combat vet to get PTSD, and I know most of you know that. That's no secret anymore. Anybody can get PTSD, but for me, yeah, I've had a lot of crappy incidents in my career. I've never had to shoot a human being or anything, thank God. But we all know that it doesn't have to be one big incident. It can be a layered effect, and that's what happened with me. I mean, I had a crappy childhood with abusive parents, but who hasn't? That's like half of America, so I'm sure it didn't set me up for a terrific career path for choosing law enforcement, but I dealt with it just fine. I've always been a little type A, a little high-strung anyway. A lot of cops are. Just ask my wife. I'm sure I'm an asshole. But, yeah, 2019 I was diagnosed with PTSD. Ironically, it was my chiropractor that first turned me on to the idea. I mean, I knew shit was getting weird for me. I was stressed out. You know how cops are always in condition yellow. You're always prepared, on duty, off duty. The only time I wasn't was when I was asleep in bed, and sleep was very evasive. I had a hard time getting to sleep at night. Weird friggin' dreams. Just things were getting kind of crazy in my head, and not crazy, whoa, but crazy. I just wasn't making sense of stuff. I was always on edge, and things were really beginning to take toll. I went to the emergency room in 2019 like 3 times. I could have sworn I was having a heart attack. I was cleared by the emergency room, cleared by doctors, EKGs, every test you could think of, cardiologists. You have, you know, I'm 49 and I'm a lazy fat bastard, but my heart was relatively healthy. They were like, dude, your heart is healthy. Yes, it's always possible that you could be having a heart attack, but it was stress. I mean, it was translating physically to chest pain, and that shit's real, guys. Don't automatically write that shit off. I'm here to tell you that it's very real. And back to the chiropractor story, I thought it was subconsciously, I didn't want to admit to anything. I was like, well, it's got to be something else, because I'm a tough cop, and I've been doing this shit since 97. I know what the fuck I'm doing. Oop, excuse my French. But that's not the truth. This job takes its toll, and some people handle it better than others. But anyway, I thought I had GERD or something, and my chiropractor said, well, I'm a chiropractor. I'm not able to diagnose you with something like that, but I can order a CT scan. So he ordered a CT scan with contrast. You drink the ink or whatever it is. And anyway, long story short, I did not have GERD. And my chiropractor is like most chiropractors, they're pretty aware individuals. If you ever see a chiropractor, you know what I'm talking about. They're very aware. And he's like, you know, you don't exactly have a stress-free job, and I've definitely seen that you were more stressed lately. Have you considered the idea that you might have PTSD? And I was like, I don't know about that. The very next friggin' day, and I was out on patrol, and we're talking one of those perfect patrol days where it's sunny and birds are chirping, and it was boring. It was one of those days, the days you hope for and wish for once in a while. Driving down a country road, middle of friggin' nowhere, and I started having a panic attack. I had a hard time breathing. My pulse went up to about 160. I have one of those stupid little sports watches. Maybe not great for someone like me who's already high-strung to say, oh, my pulse is going up. luckily, I was a former EMT basic, and they get a lot of training. My brother's a paramedic firefighter, and I've talked to him a lot about all my aches and pains, and something in the back of my mind said, "You're an idiot. This is stress-related. You're having a panic attack." So somehow I knew. I think it's because I'd seen so many doctors that it had to have been something like that. There's no way it could have been a heart attack. Now watch, I'll die a day after this video from a heart attack. But I drove to my office, splashed some water on my face, and drove home. Luckily, it was towards the end of my shift anyway, so then I went out of service. Called my doctor, made an appointment, and he's a regular doctor, and he's a really good doctor. He's like, "Hey, listen, I'm not a psychiatrist. This isn't my cup of tea. I'm very comfortable with giving you some prescriptions for now, but I'm only going to give you one prescription. You need to go see a professional." He recommended a therapist and yada yada. So I call a local therapist company, Eugene Therapy. If you're in the Eugene area, they're awesome. And they were really awesome. They made me fill out a questionnaire, and because of my law enforcement and military background and all that kind of stuff, they hooked me up with a therapist she's awesome, man. She's married to a vet. She used to work for the VA, and we probably bonded joking about how crappy the VA is, because she was only there for a year. Ironically, I worked for the VA for a year too. But anyway, she's got a lot of experience dealing with veterans, so I thought, okay, this is perfect. She's the kind of therapist that I need, someone who can relate, because cops are always big about, they won't be able to relate to me. Heaven forbid they have a PhD or a doctorate or something, and they know what the hell they're talking about, but they won't be able to relate to me. Luckily for me, I was actually ready for help, and that's it. You got to hit rock bottom, and you need to be ready for help. And so we hit it off right away, and I opened it up to her right away. And for the first, couple months, it was once a week. And then between that and she referred me to a psychiatrist, so I could get a psychiatrist to look at what drugs I was on and blah, blah, blah. And he put me on a dose of citalopram. That shit is awesome, boys and girls. It's a antidepressant, and it works great off-label for anxiety and PTSD. Now, you may not have the luck I had, where you might have to cycle month after month through different drugs to find what works for you, but there is no one answer. There's no magic bullet. Therapy is great, medication is great, but they're even better when you put them together. And here's the big deal. I thought for sure there's no way I can talk to my boss about it. There's no way I can talk to my fellow officers about it. Guys, like I said, I started in '97. That was the thing. Nobody could talk to anybody because you had to be a big tough cop, and there's no damn way you should be talking to people about your mental issues. They're going to take away your gun and your badge and send you to the cuckoo farm. And guys, that's bullshit. At least with my agency, from my immediate supervisor all the way up the damn chain of command to the regional supervisor and fellow officers, everybody was friggin' cool. Everybody was super supportive. Everybody was like, "Hey, we're super glad you got help. There's anything we can do for you?" And everybody from the top on down was like super cool. Guys, I'm here to tell you, if that's your hiccup, if that's your hitch, that the boss's boss or somebody's gonna like take away my badge and gun because they think I'm nuts, unless you are nuts, because this is about PTSD, two different animals. It's not going to happen. You're going to get excessive support, more support, almost to the point where you're like, "Okay, guys, I got this." Lots of support. Nobody's going to hem you up over this. This is law enforcement today. It keeps getting shittier and shittier year after year. And they know this. Might have been a while since some of them been on the road themselves, but they're on the outside looking in. At least in my agency, in my region, everybody's been super supportive, and definitely have had my back. So if that's your hitch, get past it. You absolutely should get help. If you don't know if you think you need help or not, there's a good book I recommend. I had a supervisor. I'm on my third supervisor since I've been with this agency. My first supervisor, we were doing some annual training, continuing ed, and this guy came to speak, and this book became available, and he bought us all a copy. I'm a field training officer, and I bought another copy, because this is mine. I bought another copy, and I hand this out to my trainees, and I can't make them read it. It's not mandatory reading, but I say, hey, report back to me. I want you to read a chapter a night. You're in your, this is something I issued them, and then I get it back after my phase with them is over. I know a lot of them are young, millennial, you know, in their 20s, and God, I know how I was when I was in my 20s. I was, you know, I wanted to be kicking doors and taking names, and, you know, I wanted to be a professional gunfighter, and I wanted the action, and all that shit's bullshit, but we all know that now. We all know that it's mostly social work, our job, and the most important tool in your toolbox is your pen and the gift of gab. So sometimes I don't know if it gets through to them, because they're like, hey, I don't know, this isn't going to happen to me. But, you know, some of them are wise enough to, like, read it. But that's all you can do. You can, like, you know, lead the horse to water. You can't force them to drink. But, again, I highly recommend this book. I even gave a copy, because I was talking about it to my therapist. And so I lent her my copy, and then their office actually bought a copy. And she thought it was phenomenal. You know, again, she works with veterans a lot, and she's like, a lot of the stuff in there was very applicable to veterans, not just police, because it's all the same. My brother's a paramedic firefighter, and the public safety realm, as far as fire and medical, they've been on board with PTSD forever. They're way ahead of the game. The military, it's almost vogue now. When you get out of the military, you get labeled with PTSD from the VA, or, you know, they're totally cool with it now. Everybody's cool with it except for law enforcement. For some reason, there's still some stigma left over from this, you know, from the old days, that you have to be this tough badass, male or female, it doesn't matter. Some of the best cops I ever worked with were females, and more badass than I'll ever be. But it can happen to anybody. Guys, I'm here to tell you, I'm going to wrap this up because it's getting long. If you want to talk to somebody, email me, give me a call. If you have a rabbi with the agency, someone that's kind of taken you under their wing and brought you up with the agency, talk to them. Talk to your wife, talk to your therapist, talk to your priest, if whatever religion you study. You can find solace in that too. Just don't find it in a bottle. I learned early on, I have an alcoholic family, so I never drank, really. I mean, I partake, like, on holidays and gatherings, you know, I like whiskey, but only a couple shots. That can't be a crutch, guys. I was going to mention fitness. I read a great article, and I'm obviously biased. Any of you know me, I'm super biased. Great article for combat veterans who started using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a therapy. And I wondered, everyone's like, well, exercise in general is great. Yeah, it is, absolutely. But I think about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is when you're on the bottom getting crushed. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is probably the most humiliating thing. I've had my ass kicked by 5'2", 200 or 120-pound girls, but they've been doing jiu-jitsu forever, and they can crush you. I mean, you have to check your ego at the door, boys and girls. And so it's very humiliating in a good way. You learn to be humble. Nothing is more humbling than jiu-jitsu. You get your butt kicked daily. You're getting crushed. You're on the bottom, protecting yourself regularly. Because there's so many people at my gym that are so much better than me. And it gives you a mental check, like, oh crap, this shit's for real. But it not only physically drains you, it can drain you mentally in a good way, and I think that has a lot to do with that. I don't know, I'm not expressing it correctly, but I think maybe some of you understand what I'm saying differently than other ways of exercise. So I'm a big fan of it. But any exercise is good. Don't let me try to push jiu-jitsu down your throat. You know I'm going to, but you know, if you think you have PTSD, or if you do have PTSD and there's a jiu-jitsu school in your area, think of it as physical therapy for your brain. It's awesome. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up because I'm running on 14 minutes and you guys are about ready to hang yourselves in the oven. I know I am. So I'll let you guys go. Any questions, call me, email me. If you just want to talk, by all means, brother and sister, give me a call. Things are really good in my world now. Still have my issues. Ask my wife, I can still be a jackass. But it's all good. There's nothing but up from here, but you have to take the first step and say, yep, I have PTSD, and acknowledge it. And if you think you do, go get help. Don't let it win. All right, take care.